you're in charge of your ability to how you respond to that situation and who you're being in that moment. And, what was available to you standing in responsibility and empowerment is like, okay, I'm just going to figure this out, and I'm going to finish this. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise you could have gotten a completely different result if you go into like blame victim mode there, which is like, oh, like there's nothing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And just, sit in that, emotion of anger, like the emotion of frustration and anger, and maybe even like shame or embarrassment
Right.
could
Yep.
result in you just walking away, like just, throwing the
That's
laptop
it.
out the window and not, yeah, right? So, which that's just not going to get you the result that you want ultimately. So, yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. And like, again, like I want to bring it back to like the thought work, because that really is like
Mm-hmm.
where you can start to shine some light, is like you had a specific thought that triggered, the emotion of like maybe just like determination or commitment or like empowerment, that then had you take the action and get the result that you did. And so looking at like, you could have had a completely different thought there that would have triggered a
Absolutely.
whw domino effect of different,
You could have had
different
a total
emotion.
meltdown. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, like in relationship, when we're looking, like applying that to like partnership, it sometimes, like, again, like sometimes it seems like the the stimulus and response sometimes are so close together that um it's easy to blame, it's easy to point a finger to something
Absolutely.
outside of yourself. And yeah, it just, like it just doesn't create the results that you want in your business or in your relationship. And yeah, I mean, that's a great way to start to look at this stuff, is like, am I getting the results that I want?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, what can I take responsibility for in shifting, in changing?
Exactly.
um
Yeah. No, I believe that, like James Whitmore also says that, whenever there's something happening, there's always something that you can learn from it. There's an opportunity to learn
yeah.
from a lesson instead
Yeah.
of going into this blame victim mode that you're talking about here.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because as long as you're giving your power away to someone or something else, yeah, you are giving up the opportunity for the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you point a finger, what is there for you to do? Nothing. If you're saying, I'm not in control of this, like it's up to this person to change their behavior, or um you know something else needs to change, like then you just sit there and you wait for something else to change so that you can be happy. It's just, yeah, it's like you're just, yeah, you're being pushed around. You're the way you feel and the results that you get are just, yeah, it's just,
Mm.
you're just waiting around for your environment to change.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where this all comes into play. And yeah, like looking at, because I will say that, being in the relationship space, people sometimes have a hard time kind of like seeing this play out. So I could share a little kind of story that from one of my personal experiences, to kind of show you like how this plays out.
Yep.
So okay. So one of my partners, ex-partners, like would wake up way earlier than I would, and I would always sleep in. And I, as a projector, human design, I need a lot of rest. And yeah, but I didn't kind of know, I didn't know my human design at this point either. But I was just like, I knew that I slept a lot. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I needed a lot of rest. And sometimes when I would wake up, he'd be like, "Oh, just waking up, huh?" And give me this little like this
Right.
little smirk, just
Uh-huh.
and so I realized I was starting to feel like shame around that. Like he said it a couple times, and I was like, "Whoa, like I'm feeling shame here. What is this about?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was like very easy for me to be like, oh, like he's calling me out, like he's being kind of like a dick here. Like, well, like just because I'm sleeping in, right? And I caught myself kind of like in that pointing finger blame mode. Like, you're the reason why I'm feeling shamed and embarrassed, right? So I was able to, phone a friend. Always great to have an outside perspective, right? And what this person said was, like, knowing who, your boyfriend is, like, that seems like a pretty just like playful, like totally harmless comment. And like, what if maybe he's just jealous that you get to sleep in, or maybe like, yeah, he wishes he could sleep in with you. So she kind of gave me this other perspective. And what I got is that I could borrow her thought, because I was able to catch that. So I was able to like look at like, okay, what is the thought? It's not my boyfriend saying these words to me that is making me feel shame. It is the thought that my brain spit out in the moment that is contributing to the feeling of shame. And what I was able to do upon reflection is go back and look and see that my thought about that comment was actually, he thinks you're lazy, and you should be being more productive. Rest is bad, basically. Like, you're lazy and worthless. Like, that was the thought.
Wow.
That actually contributed to the shame. And when I was able to realize that, and then borrow my friend's thought, which was like, oh, maybe he's just like playing around with you and just like jealous that you get to sleep in, then that triggers a whole new feeling in my system. And yeah, and like that feeling was just like, oh, like just kind of like playfulness, humor, like connection, like maybe longing, like, oh yeah, I wish he could sleep in with me too. So yeah, it was a whole different experience. Yeah, and you mentioned kind of like the lesson. So yeah, like in my taking responsibility in like for how I feel in that moment, right? Um I got to learn a lesson. I got to reflect on myself, because this taking it like a level deeper, right? Like, so why did my brain spit out that negative critical thought about myself versus the thought that my friend chose to think?
Right.
Like, that's where I got to look. So what I got to see is that like in that moment, like my boyfriend was just a mirror for my own thoughts and belief systems about myself and about, just the world and how it works. And so what I got to see is that like I had this belief that, rest is for the weak, rest is bad. You must keep being productive. And so yeah, I got to kind of see that like I'd thrown resting and stillness and recharging into my shadow. Like, I'd rejected that piece of me, because growing up, I had a family that was very go go go, and no time to rest and be productive, and no time to sit around and do nothing. And yeah, I got to see what was in my subconscious in that taking of responsibility. I got to learn the lesson and integrate that piece of me that I had rejected.
It's yeah, it's so funny to see like how powerful your thoughts are, and the fact that you actually do control them. But obviously you need to get to that stage where you can actually catch them and start reframing them and just get aware of where is this coming from. Like you start really digging down to it and just getting to the bottom of it. And it's, yeah, that's like a wow moment when you actually understand that, wow, this is what I decided to connect this with. And that was just like an immediate response that you didn't even think about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, because it also, like, my brain automatically spit out a self-critical thought,
Mm.
right? And so that was also insight into kind of like my psyche and my subconscious. And wow, like, what beliefs do I have about myself? Like, where's my self-worth at? Where's my self-love at? And yeah, and like what's lingering in the background that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. Like, if he hadn't made that comment, it probably would have been a different situation, but it gave me an opportunity to be like, no, like, and again, as we know, James Wedmore says, is like, rest is part of the work,
Mm.
especially
Absolutely.
like when we're launching.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
totally.
like otherwise burnout is where we're headed.
Yeah.
Also been there.
I mean, that probably happens. Like, let's do the 80-20 rule, and like 80% of the time, people launching, they get some kind of burnout, or not necessarily go to burnout, but they get exhausted because it's so much energy that you put into this, and it takes a lot of energy from you being in a
Yeah.
launch mode. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Totally.
And it's not just that, but the fact that, you did it, you got the human design as well, which will tell you that you are the type of person who do need to get that type of rest, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's okay to be
Oh,
you. It's okay for you to sleep in. It's
right.
okay for you to be lazy, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're not being lazy. Just that's what you need to, be more effective, be more productive.